Hey everyone, this was kind of an unusual episode of the Bitcoin Cash podcast, so I thought I'd check in from post-production and add a little note that might help to explain the context. So guest Daisy Fabria was a little bit anxious about coming on the show, and I think once we were live, that did kind of overwhelm her a little bit. So I'm sure you'll pick up on that as you listen to the episode. So instead, what happened kind of halfway through the show and rather unprompted was that about an hour and a quarter in, there's an appearance by Kain niaK, who is another member of the Bitcoin Cash community that also just happened to be in place to be involved in the live stream. So he comes on and we also talk to him rather unexpectedly, and because things had kind of gone off the plan that I had for the episode, I just decided to roll with it, and things ended up going quite off track from being about Bitcoin Cash, and there being a lot of discussion about particularly the Canadian truckers convoy protests and what's happening in Canada at the moment as well. Things didn't really go according to the usual schedule, and I'm sure you'll see that when you listen to the episode. But the key point I wanted to hit on was that I actually quite enjoyed this episode myself, in that it did take the show in a bit of a new direction, but I don't want it to become a regular feature of the actual Bitcoin Cash podcast itself, right? The show is, so far, through its history, has been very information dense. It's supposed to be a very, very high signal to noise ratio source to get news and updates on Bitcoin Cash and education about cryptocurrency, with a little bit of entertainment and banter kind of mixed in. But that's the core premise of the show, and that's what I think the listeners value about it. So I won't be changing that, and if you don't enjoy this episode, then that's fine. Just come back. The next one, it'll be back to the same regular programming. However, if you do enjoy aspects of this episode, especially when it gets more into that sort of free talk section in the second half, then send me an email, jeremy@bitcoincashpodcast.com, or join the Telegram group, which you can find by going to bitcoincashpodcast.com and looking in the footer bar, and just get in touch with me and let me know what you thought about that segment, because even though it wasn't the standard Bitcoin Cash podcast, I think there was sort of some kind of value there, and I am considering potential ways to incorporate that, maybe in a spin-off or something different that is a bit more live stream focused and a bit more conversational maybe, or that can get onto other topics outside of strictly Bitcoin Cash and pretty much Bitcoin Cash only. So I'm very interested in audience feedback. If you loved that bit, or if you hate it as well, you can also feel free to reach out to me, and I'll endeavor not to let the show go in that direction in the future as well. But that's it really. It's just a heads up that this was kind of an unusual episode, and so take it for what it is, and if you don't enjoy it, well, it will be back to the same regular Bitcoin Cash podcast in the next episode. That's it really. Thanks, and enjoy.
There will be no real non-controlled currency in the world.
We're coming for you, banks.
Bitcoin is punk rock. Deal with it.
You split, we bankrupt you.
Do you use Lightning wallets to pay for things or not?
No.
Bitcoin Cash would be seen as more of a threat to the United States hegemony than Bitcoin. Miles, tell them, what's your favorite kind of money?
Bitcoin Cash.
Hello and welcome back to the Bitcoin Cash podcast, following Bitcoin Cash on its rise to global reserve currency. Today it is episode number 39, TikToks and smart BCH tokens, featuring special guest Daisy Fabria. Today is Sunday, the 13th of February, 2022. And we're trying something a bit different because we've got the 3 time zones going here. We've got the Philippines, the UK, and Canada. So this is truly the global reserve currency conversation happening here. So my guest today is Daisy Fabria, who is a Bitcoin Cash content creator. She makes TikToks. That's kind of her specialty, I guess. I'd say. And is joining the show to tell us all about how to build up a viral audience in the new content world with Bitcoin Cash. So Daisy, welcome to the show. Introduce yourself and talk a little bit about how you got involved in Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash.
Hey, I'm Daisy. I started to meet Bitcoin Cash through Noise.Cash. Yeah.
When was that? Was that last year or the year before, 2020?
It's 1 year ago.
1 year ago. Okay, so fairly new to the scene. You know, on this show we've had a huge range of guests, and I love to see that. You know, some very early adopters, and they have a different perspective on how the scene has, you know, been built up and developed. But obviously we want to grow to kind of everyone in the world, right? So it's really important that we always have new people coming in and getting excited about it. And building up, you know, the history where they learn all the kind of things that happened in the past, but then they're also really good at spreading to new adopters because they understand, oh wow, this can be kind of new and difficult and confusing. So when you started with Bitcoin Cash, did you find it confusing or overwhelming?
Well, I'm confused for the first time.
Yeah, at the start.
Yeah, at the start. I don't know a lot about it.
Yeah. So what did you do to learn about Bitcoin Cash? Did you have
I did some research, and I made some vlog for that on my YouTube channel, but I stopped it. Seems like YouTube is not for me.
Yeah, well, I guess you're helping to spread it onto new channels, and that's something we'll talk about as well too with TikTok. You know, it's really great the way that you make it kind of more accessible to, you know, a new audience, right? Because at the moment, as far as I know, like obviously I put out content on YouTube and there are other content creators as well, but crypto is not exactly, or at least Bitcoin Cash, as far as I know, is not dominating necessarily on YouTube or on Twitter or on any specific platform, but it's certainly on TikTok as well. That's where the action is these days, in terms of a lot of people are watching the you know, the content there, and it's also, you know, very easy to go viral, especially with like younger people, which is, you know, perfect for if we want to spread to more and more people, because they might be more open-minded, right? So I think that's really great if we can get something going there. Okay, so let's start with the price that we check in on every single week. So this week the price has gone up a bit. It's $333.12 USD for Bitcoin Cash today. So one BTC buys about 127 BCH. So BCH has increased against the dollar. You know, everybody who was buying the dip and who was ignoring my warnings about a bear market, you are doing well. If you were panicked by me wanting a bear market, sorry, because so far it hasn't worked out. But it's roughly stable against Bitcoin, so that's kind of good to see. You know, we're still you know, moving along with the rest of the crypto markets. If things are going up, we're going up too, so that's excellent. Do you watch the Bitcoin Cash price a lot, Daisy, or do you just focus on actually using the currency, spending it, or news in the community?
I don't mind about the Bitcoin Cash price. I mind about the smart message token price.
Yeah, so like I guess, yeah, you follow a lot of the tokens though, right? Like on marketcap.cash. So
Yeah.
why do they grab your interest more than the main price? Like are you interested in the price? For instance, like you can see on the screenshot here, we've got the FTX token, Algorand, Uniswap. You know, obviously there's like hundreds of all these other cryptocurrencies as well too. Do you track them, or do you invest in them too, or do you just do Bitcoin Cash and just the like all the smart BCH tokens?
Did you say it again, Jeremy?
Yeah, so did you like, I know you invest in like BCH and the market cap you know .cash tokens, right? But what about all the other cryptocurrencies? What about Uniswap or Tron, Litecoin, Bitcoin, Binance, Smart Chain? Do you invest or in those ones, or do you just focus on Bitcoin Cash?
I have tried less 2017 Bitcoin.
Yeah.
I don't like it because of its high fees, and I tried the Binance Smart Chain too, but some of the tokens there it's scam.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If the fees are high, you can't really use it, right? So that's pretty critical, and that's a key aspect, obviously, to the Bitcoin Cash strategy, is having low fees so that it can be more accessible to everyone in the world. Because at the end of the day, yeah, nobody really cares if your currency costs $2 or $5 to send it. Well, you're just gonna skip straight past it, right? So yeah, even though I think we're ranking, you know, down at the moment, we're down at 26. I'm still very, very confident that we have one of the most easy to use, accessible networks. So it's great to hear that's, you know, that's one of the things that's helpful to you and to other new early adopters, because it's less important how big your community is and more important how much it can grow, right? Because the more it grows, obviously, the more useful it becomes, and the better the price is in the long run. Anyway, okay, cool. So then we've got the transactions. Today it's been about 50,000 transactions per day. It's been creeping up a little bit. So it seems like the start of a new year is the momentum has been building from January into February for BCH. So I'm loving that. And we've seen recently a lot of adoption in St. Kitts and now apparently St. Martin's, and it seems like maybe that is being reflected because even if you have a very small community there, once it sort of starts to catch on, if those people are actually using it every single day, they're not just buying some and sitting it in their you know, in their wallet and hoping to get rich. If they actually can see, okay, I'm going to go out and I'm going to buy a loaf of bread, and then that merchant then takes it to the next shop and they buy their milk, and then that person takes it to the next shop and they buy their bicycle parts or whatever, then you really get a flowing economy. So even a small number of people, if they all are making 1 or 2 or 3 transactions per day in a real economy, it will add up quickly. So, you know, there's maybe a sign that we'll see more of that over the coming couple of weeks, but it all sort of does remain to be seen. But yeah, Daisy, I don't know, do you follow these transactions? Obviously I talk about them every week on the show. Are you interested in the stats for the blockchains, and do you have a particular stats that you look at, like the price of the fees or the transactions? No.
No.
Fair enough. Like that's kind of that's fine too, right? It's not necessary to follow any of these stuff, and all the guests that we have on the shows, sometimes they have different takes, right? Like for instance, I think of Joel, when we had him on to talk about it, he had some analysis that was based on, oh, okay, you've got to look at the patterns in certain things, but you can't really focus on the exact numbers. We have some guests that love it, and in fact, probably I should have a guest at some point that does you know, a lot of blockchain analysis, right? There's people who get really into the details of all the specifics, and they think that their on-chain analytics, you know, tells them what's going to go up and go down, and they have all their you know, ideas, but you know, for me, it's usually just the transactions and the cent in USD that I like to follow. But I do mix in every once in a while on this show some of the other stats too, when they're relevant. But I think those two combined with the price are good ones to follow week to week. So we've got here then the cent in USD, and I need to actually update the slide. I forgot to change the title on this one, but I was going to change it to our whale came back. We had this whale that was doing a couple billion in cent USD volume for the last you know, the last year or so, and had just dropped out in December for a couple days. And then we've seen that in February and in late January, it sort of dropped out again. So the volume dropped off from being, you know, in 4 billion a day range to down to a couple 100 million. And we talked on the last episode about whether or not that big whale that was moving around millions of dollars had just abandoned BCH, or it's hard to know whether it's a large exchange or kind of what is happening. But it seems that the whale hasn't gone. They were just taking a break. They were just asleep, and they've come back because the volume has once again spiked up and then dropped off again. So I really don't have any theories about that. I think maybe it could be an exchange, and maybe it could be related to Binance, which we're going to talk about in a minute. But I don't know, Daisy, do you have any theories who would be moving around billions of dollars of Bitcoin Cash every day, and why would they have stopped recently? Do you have any guesses?
What is this again, Jeremy?
So with the amount of money that moves across the network, right, on this graph, we can see that there's somebody is sending like $2 or $3 billion of Bitcoin Cash every single day, right? But then they stopped recently, and they for a couple of weeks, the amount of money sent has been much smaller, and now they've come back. And they sent, if you look at the bottom right, it's a bit hard to see on the graph, but you can see the red line at the bottom. It's kind of peaked up again there. Do you have any ideas or any guesses as to who it might be? Who is this super rich person that is sending around billions of dollars of Bitcoin Cash?
You don't know either.
Yeah. I mean, it's a mystery, right? And I'm hoping that, like, I'm hoping that at some stage somebody will either announce, you know, maybe a big company, right? Like an exchange might come out and say, hey guys, you know, we've been doing all these transfers in Bitcoin Cash, or I don't know. It could be a celebrity that is just buying into Bitcoin Cash that we haven't heard from. Could be a lot of things, right? It's kind of hard to say.
A CEO.
Yeah, exactly. Could be, you know, and there's a lot of the CEOs in crypto who have founded crypto companies. A lot of them are very friendly to BCH, right? Like Coinbase has Brian Armstrong, for instance, or Jesse Powell, who runs Kraken. Some of these, very early adopters, they really like Bitcoin Cash because they remember the early days of Bitcoin. And so when it split into Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash, they agreed that the fees should be low. And so even if their business kind of relied on them, supporting all the different coins for the sake of their company, but they do have a special place in their heart for Bitcoin Cash. They do think it's special, right? So it could easily be one of them. Jett, were you gonna jump in there?
Yeah, so before we got to the slide, I wanted to say, Daisy, you have a fan in the chat. Amazing World 02 says they came here for Daisy. So hello, and Richard, thanks for coming back.
Friends.
Perfect. But I would imagine this is an exchange, to be honest. Like maybe someone paying employees if they are a company. But this, I would imagine, like this is probably just it could also just be metric gaming. And maybe they got bored. Maybe they took a vacation. Who knows?
Well, we do follow it every week, and that was something that Joel said too, which is, look, if the metric is being analyzed by a lot of people, then that creates an incentive for somebody to come along and mess around with the numbers. And this does seem, I would say, pretty clearly to be literally just one central source, because otherwise you wouldn't see these very noticeable patterns where it drops out, because otherwise you would see one part of it would drop out but somebody else would start things up, right? And so because it isn't distributed, it does seem like somebody, but it doesn't seem like they have a agenda against BCH, because it's not like it correlates with the price crashing either. So whoever it is, they've got a lot of money, but they obviously have a lot invested in BCH to have so much to move around, but they also don't seem to be switching it on and then pumping up the price, or switching it off and then crashing the price. So I think we've just kind of got to wait and see. Okay, so first news item of the day is that the US debt has now surpassed more than $30 trillion. So Chet's given the fist pump there. So the United States dollar and of course current global reserve currency is busy hyperinflating away at an enormous rate. So they're just printing out more dollars every day to everyone. So it should be no surprise that the world is starting to clue in and starting to get more and more excited about cryptocurrency, and more aware that their money is losing value, right? So you have tons of people flooding into the stock market. Some people are going into precious metal. Some people are going into real estate. The prices of houses all around the world is going crazy, as well as commercial real estate, and obviously crypto as well too. The more dollars there are in circulation, supply and demand, the less the value of it is going to be. So I've certainly noticed myself in the last couple of months that the price of food has been going up in the UK, and we're now, the government is acknowledging sort of record inflation with 7.5% year over year inflation now recorded in the US. I would say it's probably higher than that. I think the government definitely underreports. So that's certainly going to be part of it. But even according to their own metrics, it is far, far higher than normal, and probably likely to keep getting higher. Are you seeing problems with inflation in the Philippines, Daisy? Are you noticing the price of things increasing?
No, I don't know about it. Yeah.
You don't know? Like, if is milk getting more expensive? Is bread getting more expensive? Shops, are they increasing their prices because there's so much new money being printed?
I think it's only rice. Yeah, everything here is expensive now.
Yeah. And do you think people in the Philippines have a strong sense of that? Do they understand? Do they realize that the government's money is, going down in value, and that they should, be interested in cryptocurrencies?
Not everyone knows about it.
Not everyone knows about it. So so they just think it's a natural process, right? I think that's kind of what happens in all different. Yeah. Like, I think it's kind of interesting to me that all around the world you have people just kind of accept. It's like the weather. They think that the prices of things just go up, and they think it's like some magical thing in the universe that just naturally happens. Like the sun comes out and the prices just go up, and that's just nature. But of course it's not. It's all a human created system. Cool. Well, I guess that's just a warning to everybody then, that they should think carefully about the fresh supply of dollars that is always streaming out into the world, because there'll be more and more of them being printed. So, I mean, crypto is up this week, but even in weeks when it's down, I think it's very easy for people to think to themselves, oh, wow, there's so many dollars being printed. So cryptocurrency might truly be a better system. All right, next thing we've got here is possibly related to this discussion we were just having about the billions of dollars being sent around on the network, which is the largest, most popular crypto exchange. Binance have disabled their withdrawals for BCH. I think they're back on now, but this week they switched off BCH, and it is BCH only, which is kind of indicative. They didn't switch off Bitcoin BTC, they didn't switch off Litecoin or Ethereum or any of these other coins. It wasn't related to technical maintenance, at least as far as we know, or there wasn't problems on the Bitcoin Cash network, for other exchanges or in general. So it seems like Binance specifically might just be running out of Bitcoin Cash, right? Maybe people are trying to withdraw their coins and they simply don't have them, which is why it's really important for everybody to hold on to their own private keys, like I talk about on this show a lot. Not your keys, not your coins is kind of the key motto. So everybody should withdraw off those exchanges. But this has happened before. It's happened a couple of times, and it seems to be becoming a bit of a pattern. And now with Smart BCH burning coins so that there is less coins in circulation, it sort of raises questions about whether or not the exchanges actually do have the BCH that they claim that they have, and potentially if they are on exchanges either running a fractional reserve where they don't have those coins, or whether they're lending out their coins to people to short the price of BCH. So some people have this theory that the price of BCH has done kind of poorly over the last couple of years relative to the rest of the crypto market. And one explanation, even though BCH has a lot of adoption and a lot of fans, so one thing that could explain it is if a lot of people are trying to borrow Bitcoin Cash and then sell it, and hope that when the price goes down, they can rebuy it to make a profit. So that's called shorting. And this kind of indicators from the exchanges shows that maybe there is some evidence of this. So we've seen, throughout the history of this show, like from the second episode, we talked about the short squeeze in GameStop and the price of their stock rocketing up, because after too many people have loaned out an asset, if the price moves against them, then they have to kind of pile back in to repay their loan, and then that can compound on itself and send the price rocketing up really fast. So that might have been what happened last year in May of 2021, where the price in Bitcoin Cash moved up from $500 at the start of April up to $1,500. So it tripled against all the other cryptocurrencies, against all the fiat currencies in the space of about 2 months. So yeah, it's very important for people to hold their own coins. I want to reinforce that message. And yeah, I don't know, Daisy, have you seen, do you, like you said, you traded Binance coins before. Do you use Binance, the exchange?
I use PayPal, Binance,
Do you
and
think?
Trust Wallet.
Yeah, and Trust Wallet.
Yeah.
Okay, I've never used Trust Wallet. I should actually look into it. Do you recommend it? Is it a good wallet?
Yeah. It's
Alright.
a non-custodial wallet.
Yeah, it's important to have a non-custodial wallet, right? And I think that's a really key aspect of BCH, that it's really good to hear that we're getting the message to new adopters. And I know you explain about that in your TikToks as well, right? Because people who have a non-custodial wallet, like, you can't have your money taken away from you. And
Yeah.
okay, so yeah, I think it's it's important. It's important to look after your coins yourself, and especially for newer adopters. You know, they don't always get those messages. If maybe they like Binance, for instance, and they come in, they buy all these different coins, and they don't realize, they don't understand how cryptocurrency works and how to take control of that themselves. So it's really great, you know, the way that you promote that to people as well too. It's a really, really important message.
I think Binance is a custodial wallet.
Yeah, Binance has also been a very useful wallet, and they've onboarded a huge amount of people, I think, because they simply just made it easy for people to get involved in crypto. And I know that when I went to the crypto meetups that I went to a few months ago, I was surprised at how many people there, they didn't have a wallet on their phone, like the bitcoin.com wallet, or maybe like Trust Wallet, or maybe, you know, like there's various other options for different currencies. They didn't know any of those wallets. All they had was Binance, because that's just what they're used to using. And there was a story recently by Vitalik Buterin, the founder or co-founder of Ethereum, and he went to Argentina to see what cryptocurrencies they were using there. And he found that they just all used Binance. So they just traded around their coins. Their actual local US dollars or Argentinian pesos were just less useful than Binance. So they were just switching out of the government system into Binance, right?
It's a popular exchanges.
Yeah. Have you been seeing a lot of people in the Philippines? Do they use Binance as well? Is that one of the most popular?
Yeah.
Why do you think that is? Is it because, like, is it the fees? Do they have, you know, is it the low fees? Is it because they have a good marketing campaign?
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, they because they're high up, I think on CoinMarketCap, there's Binance Smart Chain is, you know, ranked in the top few coins. I think people also, it's easy for them to get excited about that as well too. Okay, and
I made a video before the differentiate between non-custodial and custodial wallet on my YouTube channel, maybe 3 months ago or 4 months.
And was it well received? Did a lot of people really enjoy that content?
Yeah, no, I guess no. Yeah, I'm not that popular on YouTube.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's, you know, that's problem that we have as a community is trying to figure out how to get that message to more and more and more people, right? And because it is quite in detail, it's hard to get a complicated message across like that, you know, in a very short summary that people want to watch. So I mean, I do it on this podcast, which is a more long form thing, so people can listen along, you know, step by step. But it's yeah, you know, it's in especially in like a short medium like a TikTok, it's got to be very catchy, right, and very attention grabbing to people.
You need to minimize your video up to 5 minutes. It's a maximum for TikTok.
And probably even shorter, right? A lot of the time it's like 5 seconds or 20 seconds, right? So how do you get people's attention when there's so much competition of just short clips coming at them?
Just dancing, then putting some text about Bitcoin Cash.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of your content has, it's very like there's a lot of really cool dances and stuff, and I think that's like a trend on TikTok, right? I mean, I probably sound like an idiot because I have never really used TikTok. I used it for one day. I thought, you know what, I want to see what the hype is all about, so I loaded it up and I had all these people just dancing on my phone, you know. So it's certainly really popular, but I didn't also understand there's certain like ways that you can cut together clips, right? Of one person will make like half a clip and then somebody else will put in their half of it, so they're doing like a synchronized dance or a song, or the lyrics to a like a sort of a conversation, or those kind of things. How do you follow those trends and pick up on them?
Scrolling on my TikTok and then I try it.
So you just go on.
I think it's better if you use TikTok live there because you can pay some attention. A lot of views are there.
I think I don't know actually what the numbers are, but
I think you have to reach 1,000 followers to be able to use the live for TikTok.
So once you hit 1,000 followers, you can go live, and do people respond more to the live stream because people like instant, you know, they like live, right?
They like live.
Those live streams also get promoted. So if you're just scrolling TikTok, there's a good chance that the live stream is just going to show up on your feed, even if you're not remotely interested in whatever is on the live stream. Just like and I've seen live streams go from like, you know, 2 viewers to over 600 in like 30 seconds because the algorithm just like sends it out there.
So hopefully we can get a few more BCH kind of live streams going then. I don't know, maybe Jett, maybe you and I have got to try and learn some lessons from Daisy and then load it up and try and see if we can maybe we can do a collaboration. Maybe you can teach us a dance and then we'll try and do the dance for TikTok, you know. With
you can use my account because I made an account for Bitcoin Cash. You can use it for live.
Oh wow, awesome. Okay, well, that's how can we turn that down? You know, we've already got the groundwork established that already has the live threshold of viewers and stuff. So I don't know, Jett, you a good dancer, mate? Are we gonna be able to?
I was on
just live.
We'll do live dances, I was on TikTok for like 2 months, and the majority of the crypto TikToks that I found, like there was one guy that I got into an argument with, and I think it was probably like my most engaged with TikTok, and he was like, it was just like a focus up on a chart, of course, and it was like, look at this, boys, you gotta get in now. We're all gonna be rich. We're all gonna make it. And I think it was Evergrow token or something like that. It was on the Binance chain. And I remember I stitched it, which, like, I'm a Zoomer, right? But oh my God, did I feel like a Luddite trying to use TikTok. And I was like, okay, essentially, like, remind me of this in 2 weeks when it goes to nothing, buddy. And he got so mad, and we had this back and forth, and I was like, I just remember being like, yeah, but this is like, there's a fundamental difference, and I think you're missing the point. It's not about number go up. It is about having, a peer-to-peer censorship-resistant form of digital cash. And like, number go up is pretty nice because I think he's only like 16 or 17, and it's great that they're getting into crypto. And you can lose everything at that age, and like, what? You're risking nothing essentially. But yeah, it was not. I don't like the TikTok space, especially like crypto Twitter can be toxic, but crypto TikTok is like it's that toxic positivity where it's like, we can do no wrong, we are all awesome, buy my scam tokens. It's good to see. I know Cheap Lightning, recently made a TikTok account. I cannot remember the name of it, of course. I feel like a bad person right now, but I add it to the chat or in the description or something if I can find it. And it's good to see more just BCH memes coming out. I think TikTok is the way to get the Zoomers in, and we know they're there.
Yeah, I think whatever we can do to sort of hit onto that market. I mean, haven't really made any sudden moves in there myself, and yeah, I tried to use it for one day, and I mean, sort of similar to you, I was just quite confused about it. Really, it didn't intuitively make a lot of sense to me, but clearly the algorithm knows how to spread out things even more than you can go viral on YouTube or on Twitter or whatever if you have some super relevant or super funny comment or whatever. But TikTok is just the next level of that, I think. So certainly a way that as a small community, if we can create one or two little things and just get them right. Obviously we have to try lots of different things, but if you just get kind of lucky one time where the algorithm gets it, or it gets to a pool of people who are really interested, then it doesn't matter if we're a small crypto community versus like a Bitcoin could be a much larger community, but the reach of these platforms, especially TikTok, is so enormous that any size of community can suddenly be having a huge impact. So yeah, I think it's really important that we keep plugging away on those channels and try and go viral, right? It's as simple as that, I guess. that's the dream, So with these stats, I just want to bring it back a little bit and just kind of finish off this one point here. So obviously, I was talking about the short squeezing before, and one really interesting element to that is that the shout out to Omar, BCH community, he did a little bit of digging and he found that Bitcoin Cash has had their rates that are paid for people borrowing Bitcoin Cash have been increasing on Gemini, which is one of the largest exchanges that's invested in by the Winklevoss twins, who were involved in the early days of Facebook and also were involved in the early days of Bitcoin. They bought hundreds of thousands of Bitcoins in 2013, 2014. And then they set up this exchange, and on this exchange, Bitcoin Cash has moved up in the last year from 4.5% to 5.12%. So the percentage is going up because more and more people are wanting to borrow BCH, and less people are offering it. But the opposite has happened for Bitcoin, BTC, which has gone from 3% down to 1%, Ethereum 3% down to 1.2%, and Litecoin from 5% to 1.5%. So all the other major coins are going down, which makes sense because there's money to be made. So people are coming in and lending out their coins. But Bitcoin Cash is unique, at least on this metric, that however many people are coming in to borrow is more than the people coming in to supply that coin. So that could be a very good sign for the demand for Bitcoin Cash, that the people who are holding it are not willing to lend it out at low rates. They're not kind of willing to risk it, or that a lot of people want to short Bitcoin Cash, but they're not finding the liquidity, and they're having to pay more and more and more to try and keep the price of Bitcoin Cash sort of suppressed. So yeah, I don't know whether we will see another kind of short squeeze moment like we possibly did at the end of last year, but certainly the potential is there in the market, it seems, as far as the liquidity goes. All right, so next thing then, we've got the GoFundMe story from this week, which has been huge. It's not even specifically really a crypto story, but it is tangentially quite related. So the Canadian truckers who have been protesting in Canada against the government, they had $10 million in donations on this kind of crowdfunding platform called GoFundMe. But the Ottawa government and the national government as well too, I believe, of Canada came in and sort of put some pressure on this sending platform, who I guess generally would be happy, because the more they're crowdfunding people, the more people using their service, the better. They should be enjoying it. But instead, the government has come in and put in sort of perverse incentives and basically told them to shut it down and to cut off people trying to donate to the truckers. So what they first did was they said that they were going to take all the money, this $10 million that had been donated, and they were going to give it to approved charities. And that, of course, brings up question about who are the approved charities and who gets to decide. And it was sort of like, so you're going to steal effectively just straight up steal $10 million from people who donated for one cause and just give it to a completely different cause, and who gets to decide that? And that's a disaster. So of course they had that initial pressure, but then there was a lot of public backlash because everybody said, look, we donated $10 million and you're just taking it away. So they then said that they would later just refund. They sort of changed their minds about how it was going to be distributed a couple times, and then eventually they just, as more and more people were complaining, they said, look, you can request your money back if you didn't like it. And then so many people were doing that they finally said, all right, look, we'll just send back everybody their money, right?
So I don't really think it was that people were asking for refunds, because yeah, that's not great for them. But the real push, I think, was people going, you know what? Just fuck you, GoFundMe. I'm filing a chargeback. I don't just want my money. I want you to get hurt. So the idea with the chargeback, as far as I'm aware, is that the more, there's only a threshold amount of chargebacks an account with these credit providers can take, and then the account gets shut down. So I think they were trying to cover their ass.
Yeah, I did see people encouraging people who had donated to also, sort of participate in this kind of mass activism and just, charge back their money. And in that way, at the very least, cause a lot of grief for the GoFundMe, because if you're getting a refund via their platform, presumably they have a system for doing that. But if they're getting a load of requests into their bank, then it's going to make the bank annoyed with them, and then the bank obviously has more leverage with them to create a response. So anyway, as it kind of happened, they decided, look, that they would just sort of give back everyone's money. I think that process started, and it became a big point for, you know, in the crypto scene, everybody to say, look, haha, like, this is what we've been trying to tell you guys this whole time. Censorship resistant money is really important, and also just being global, because obviously people were donating from all around the world to the truckers, right? And it obviously ideologically it aligns very well, sort of freedom and liberty kind of base. So all of it ties together. So then what happened was, well, there was a bit of a BCH flip starter that ran and got funded. So that's cool. 100 BCH will be getting through to the truckers in that way. There was also a BTC flip starter, not flip starter, but a BTC crowdfunding, and some people got their money that way. And probably undoubtedly in other crypto communities there was too. But the truckers kind of made a big mistake where they'd done their GoFundMe and they'd got 10 million. So they tried another platform. They tried one called Give, Send, Go, and they got $4 or $5 million in donations on that one. And then that also got shut down by the government. Hang on. Just a sec.
So that didn't get shut down.
I thought it did. Was there? Yeah.
Yeah. So there was I believe the Court of Ontario, or maybe it was like a provincial order from Ford himself, but it was something to do with Ontario. They said like any funds that would be going to these occupants would be seized, and then Give, Send, Go clapped back with, "We're not in Canada. You have no jurisdiction over us." That was the end of it. Now, TD Bank did take, I think it's like 1.2 million from the money that GoFundMe sent of the overall like 10 million or whatever it was, because that was already in the organizers' bank accounts. So GoFundMe, tried to steal, ended up backing down. The court tried to steal from Give, Send, Go. Give, Send, Go said, take a long hike. TD Bank was like, absolutely, no problem. We'll steal your money.
It's clearly just been a disaster on every front, though, basically. And it does just, highlight, why do we have all these systems? Why don't we just, with people, just send Bitcoin Cash to each other? It takes 5 seconds and it's instant, and nobody's can shut it down and nobody can charge it back. And, it's just really not a problem at all. So this is a huge opportunity for crypto, and anybody who is in Canada, knows people in Canada, is related to these things, or if you want to donate to these efforts in various ways, have a look around. I mean, maybe a good place to start is this flip starter that did already successfully run. Maybe if anybody is interested in following up with that, they should look there. I'm sure there's contact details and stuff. I'm not super involved in all that, but it does really go to show that millions of people who are involved in these kind of protests and so on are going to be getting the idea, like, we need a solution to this problem, right? Cryptocurrency has struggled with having a mass marketed reason that all this cryptocurrency is important, and getting people interested at scale. So I don't know, Daisy, do you have any thoughts about this? Have you been watching the protesting in Canada, and are you interested in their struggles, or whether or not they're using cryptocurrency?
I haven't watched the video yet.
Yeah. what about? But has it been, breaking news in the Philippines as for the Canadian truckers? Like, has that been a big story on the local news?
I don't know.
Yeah, you don't watch the news, neither do I.
Yeah, I'm focusing on Telegram.
Yeah,
Telegram.
yeah, exactly. Well, that's one. Yeah, that's right. On Telegram, it has been huge. Actually, there's been a lot of discussion and chatter about it. I think in various channels too. So it's just interesting to see, the larger sort of media outlets, they have less and less control over the narrative of what is going on, because more and more people are just finding their information out sort of peer to peer or in different channels, right?
Yeah.
I hate to keep jumping in, but
No, get in there.
oh man, I've been like so into this. One of the things that I found really interesting was CTV and CBC, sorry, um, have a wide.
That's hang on, just to clarify for the listeners, that's the major Canadian TV mainstream broadcast channels, right?
Right. If I am recalling things correctly, CBC is partially government funded. It's not completely, but they have a large backing from taxpayer dollars. But the CTV specifically, they have a tweet out that's from one of their journalists that was like, what it's like to be a journalist today. We were given the orders to remove all of the markings from our cars because we feel targeted. And then I know David starts with an M. He's a reporter for Rebel News. I can't remember his last name, but he was on the ground on the Windsor Ambassador Bridge. And he was saying that he found it really interesting the protesters had cast all of the mainstream media to the sides, and they were like, you can take your pictures, but you do it from afar. But the amount of like just protesters that were streaming, or people that like grew up in the area or lived in the area that were streaming, and then of course Rebel News was there. It was like there was like this almost excitement that the independent media they have the narrative, like and it's interesting too. You can kind of see NPCs online where it's like the media will put out a tweet, or let's call it what it is. The cathedral puts out a tweet, and it starts getting repeated and spread, and then I've spent a good chunk of today just linking to these live streams and being like, yeah, we can see it though. Like, you can't just bullshit us. We have the whole protest, the past 16 days documented on hours of footage from tens of different, if not hundreds of different cameras. What are you talking about? So I think it's a good change. We'll see things, well, distrust is already there. And it wasn't there, I don't think, in Canada as much as it is now. So I'm interested in that. Unfortunately, yeah. I think it is unfortunate that we've come to this, but it's about goddamn time.
Yeah, and I think it's funny that it all sort of started with the whole Trudeau saying it's just a fringe, minority, and sort of trying to gaslight the whole population. He's still doing it from what I can see. Any clips that I see of him in Parliament and stuff like that, he's still just trying to say like, oh, it's these really unreasonable to people. And when you watch the, little clips of the back and forth, it's kind of bizarre because the opposition is saying to him, mate, there's thousands or tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands or maybe even millions of people literally involved in this right now. And you are the prime minister or you're the head of the government and whatever. Can you tell us what you're going to do about it? You can't just you can dodge the question. You can say nothing's happening, or you can try and sort of slander them or whatever. But that's millions of people in your own country that are just like, we're not being heard, we're not being represented. And all, of course, those people have their their friends and family and their local networks, so that that information is just, and that discontent is just spreading out sort of to more and more people, and yeah, I think that's kind of happening a bit around the globe. I mean, Canada is definitely the center of it right now, but the same thing is happening in Canberra in Australia at the moment, where there's literally just enormous crowds, like on the lawns at Parliament House, and here, there, and everywhere, that are just not being even really acknowledged. But if you sort of open your eyes, if you go and look for the information, it is being put out there. It's just not being put out there by the centralized media. So it's truly a world where people are learning, because once they've yeah, sure, Daisy, yeah, if they need to find this information about what's going on in the world, once they've been lied to, or lied by omission, basically, then sooner or later they start to realize, I've got to get this information somewhere else, right? I'm not being told the full story. And I think that's kind of a one-way journey, right? You have a lot of people that are bought into the media narrative, but once they learn, or they realize that the wool is being pulled over their eyes, it's hard for them to go back the other way,
Yep. I think so. The Windsor Ambassador Bridge was like the clutch for today, and it was very interesting because I was up until like fucking 4 or 5 in the morning watching this, because they were like, emergency orders go in, or the injunction goes into effect at 7 p.m. yesterday. The emergency order goes into effect at midnight, which is funny. There was already like the COVID emergency order, and then the provincial emergency order, and now there's this How many fucking emergency orders do we need? And by the time I went to bed, it was just people around like a metal, like an old oil barrel or something, burning firewood and having a couple beers in the middle of the intersection. And they were surrounded by police. And they were just, everyone's chill, no problem. And I expected that when I went to bed, I'd wake up and see like, bullets fired. But no, I woke up and nothing happened. Like, the crowd had gotten larger. And then there was another like 300 people that showed up later in the day, and still nothing's happened. And I'm curious what Trudeau is trying to do for the optics. Like, what options does he have? Because, like, so first off, I don't think the opposition's to be trusted, because they've been all about, like, Scheer got kicked out, right? Because he was also pro-vaccine mandate. So the Conservative Party is having a little implosion right now. And then Candace, their interim leader, I think, has said, like, protesters, we hear you, go home. Trudeau has finally said, protesters, we hear you, go home, despite the fact that he hasn't talked to anyone. I don't know how he's heard anyone, but whatever. And then on the Liberal side of things, like, their party, within their own party, they're like, Trudeau, you're causing a lot of division right now. Escalate, like, tensions are escalating. What can you do? And then the Bloc Québécois isn't really a fan anyway, so they're hopping on the opportunity to, talk shit about Trudeau, and it's like, what are you gonna do, man? So the last I checked, and I haven't been paying too much attention today because of the stream and whatnot, but there were, I don't know if you saw this, there were snipers around the convoy on the Ambassador Bridge. There were a bunch of OPP, the Ontario Police. I think there were a couple RCMP, and then there were military-style police. And I thought it was very interesting. One of the streams that I was watching, the guy was like right, like, I don't know, 2 feet away from the cops, and he's like just having a conversation with 2 of them. They seemed pretty friendly. And he's like, oh my God, is that the military? And the cop was like, no, they're not military. They just look like it. And that, plus the snipers, it's like, and then there was talk of tear gas, but literally nothing has happened. There has been 0 arrests as of 4 hours ago, except for, I think, a counter-protester who was incredibly drunk. And then there have been 2 protesters hit by cars. the first one like was a outspoken Antifa, and also, yeah, I'm not gonna get into this. We're on YouTube and stuff, but you can check out. I think his name's uh, David Zazrak or something. If you search David hits protester, I'm sure you'll find it. But yeah, it's so weird to see people being like, these are violent terrorists when they have concerts. There was a Native woman who went on to the stage in downtown Ottawa after Brian Peckman did a speech. Brian Peckman is one of the older premiers of Newfoundland and Labrador, and the only living signer of the Charter of Rights and Freedoms of Canada left. He had a speech supporting the convoy today, and then, yeah, immediately after, a First Nations lady went up and played a song and dedicated it to the kids that were found in the residential schools, or the kids' bodies and graves, I should say. And yeah, man, everyone's flying Canadian flags. They've got hot tubs and music and dancing, and it just seems like it seems like a party, man. Like, everyone seems to be having fun. The cops were like, it's now a crime to give fuel to the truckers. So everyone was carrying around empty jerry cans, or jerry cans with piss, or jerry cans with water to, just feed people. And yeah, it's getting so spicy.
Well, it just seems like there's going to be a breaking point, right? Like, are we going to actually see, the Canadian government essentially at some point? The protesters haven't been violent at all. Essentially, at some point, the government is going to be the one to pull the trigger, right? And that would really be a case of like, what would happen if they do shoot a protester or something? Surely that is something that the mainstream Canadian media sort of cannot ignore, or at which the sort of the uprising kind of voices will just hit fever pitch, as it just word to word people are like, the government is shooting people. Like, once that's an undeniable fact, it's kind of about as out of control as it can kind of get, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess we'll wait and see what kind of ends up happening with that. But
I think this is where we can look towards like Michael Malice and his, great insights. And I retweeted one today. He was on Glenn Beck, I think, which I don't normally watch Glenn Beck, not my kind of guy. But he mentions like every time the state has to use violence, because it's so costly, it ends up being beneficial to the people in the long run, because people that are not necessarily aligned with a political side, or are apolitical or whatever, can look at this and be like, oh, that's obviously wrong. And it's just a resource intensive move. These officers are being paid, overtime to be here and work, 24 hours. So something's going to happen. It's been, 16 days, and both sides are exhausted.
Yeah, and I think it really sort of comes to the point as well too, that at a certain point the actual police and the military themselves decide they don't want to be part of it, right? That if they are in that scenario, and they are willing to defect, or to stop enforcing the kind of political will, if they can clearly see, look, the people disagree and we're being given orders by the government that just democratically are not valid, right?
Yeah. So the police, interestingly enough, do not have a vaccine mandate. At least the OPP doesn't. There's a military officer that is in New Brunswick, but I think is currently in Gagetown, essentially a military town in New Brunswick, and he put out a video either yesterday or the day before, and he was like talking about how that he felt it was a violation and all this, and that video is trying to be memory hold, but and he's being investigated. Hello.
For the audio listeners, we've got some special guests joining the stream that we'll introduce in a second.
Hey, let's see if they want to hop in. Hello, hello.
Hey guys.
Hey, so we've got special guests, Matthias Kain niaK joining the stream, and somebody whose name I don't know. Very enthusiastic.
Her name is Alexa.
Alexa.
She's she's Daisy's daughter.
And yeah, Alexa joining the stream too. So it's turning into the party with the Canadian truckers and the party here too on the stream. You love to see it. The Bitcoin Cash community always making it happen. We're getting some feedback there.
Oh yeah. I'll fix that. That's another screen. There we go. Now the feedback is gone.
All right, I'll pop out and let this continue.
But yeah, welcome to the stream. I don't know, Matthias, you live in Canada too a lot of the time, right? I don't know, do you have a take about any? This is turning into the Canadian Truckers podcast, but it's the most relevant thing that's going on, right? So
well, I definitely have an opinion about everything that's going on. It's like it's well, to me the Truckers Convoy is not, it's just an enormous group of various people that all want different things, right? There's the guy there that just wants to promote Bitcoin so he makes more money, and there's probably some actual truckers there that are just annoyed at how much hoops they have to go through for no apparent reason. A lot of it is just like politics at this point into the pandemic. But yeah, it's fascinating to see how quickly the entire group of people was put away as just like being Nazis. And there are definitely some Nazis amongst them, but like it's like the media just doesn't want to deal with it. The media just wants to give the media 1,000 people. They're just going to decide they're good guys, they're bad guys. No nuance, no nothing. And so yeah, it's like it's horrible how like journalism is just like completely dead. The media just decides what angle they want to give something, and then everybody goes for that. And then the right guys go for the opposite angle, and then you can never. The only way to figure out some truth or have a relevant discussion is to actually go there and talk with the people.
exactly, and you need more and more people to understand this kind of filter that is being put over the information by the news sources that they're used to, right? Because only once they understand and they see that will they start to sort of trust or look for those more direct sources, like you're saying, because even if that information is being put out there, on Twitter or on any different kind of social media, on Telegram, right, on various platforms, if people are not used to consuming those sources of information or passing information that hasn't been all professionally packaged and conformed to a narrative,
Yeah, exactly. But like the mainstream media only cares about one thing, always getting as many people as angry as possible, because then they keep watching, they keep clicking the ads, and that's just how they make money. Angry people click more. And then, but the end result then is that then like nobody trusts the mainstream media anymore, or hardly anybody trusts, but then they all fall, a lot of times fall victims to all kinds of grifters that have all kinds of radio shows that call themselves alternative news media, and then just like sell people products. So it's like out of the frying pan into the fire kind of situation. And there's really no, like, there are some good alternatives once in a while. I don't know if you guys ever watched that Channel 5 guy from the States, Andrew. He used to be called All Gas, No Brakes.
Yeah, he's classic, some of his videos. So great for the viewers that don't know, it's this guy. He goes into things like he's probably there at the Canadian Truckers, I don't know, but he goes to these kind of controversial events or whatever, and his style of journalism is that he essentially asks very, very open-ended questions, and he lets the people just rant or say whatever, and then I mean, I'm sure he sort of selects the funniest clips and whatever that he puts into his compilation, but essentially by making it quite open-ended and agenda.
Yeah, but it's honest. It's
Yeah.
honest. He just lets people talk. He doesn't spin. He doesn't say this is good or bad. He selects for what's interesting, not for what makes more advertisements, right? So it's a breath of fresh air, right? And I mean, he's just trying to be entertaining, of course, but what he actually provides the news quality is much higher, because you can just listen to somebody talk. Some guy, whatever he's talking about, maybe he's rambling, maybe he's saying something of value, but at least you're just listening to somebody share their perspective on things with like a big audience. The mainstream media hasn't done that in like 50 years or something. So yeah, hopefully we'll see more of that, like just like that kind of style, and just like some real journalism again. It would be great if we start seeing some journalists maybe that just get funded through cryptocurrency, so they don't have to have an employer anymore. They just be like, okay, well, I'm an independent journalist, and I let the guys that give me money, they get to decide where I go. All that kind of stuff is possible with cryptocurrency. Just have one guy and just have a decentralized autonomous organization built around it. Have the people that fund him vote where he should go next and keep him funded, and then we just get a source of news back. Hopefully that might change the tide a little bit, because like just try find relevant and truthful information these days. It's so hard.
Yeah, there's so much information, and yeah, shout out to All Gas No Breaks. People should definitely look up that. Like you say, it's very, very interesting. He doesn't make any commentary. He doesn't try and push any kind of angle. Sometimes you can see in his facial expressions, he tries to be pretty deadpan, but sometimes you can see in his eyes or in his smile or something if he thinks that things are getting a little bit ridiculous. But it's certainly he certainly leaves it up to the reader or the viewer to kind of put their own interpretation on what's going on, presented without comment.
So Jett, what's your connection with this freedom convoy? You've just been following it, or what?
Yeah. So, I mean, I born and raised in New Brunswick, Canada. There's been a very small, like, I don't even want to call it a convoy here. And the people in my province are aging and overweight, and there's not that much like fiery spirit. So the attempts here have been very small and not really worth paying a whole lot of attention to. And I mean, Blaine Higgs, our premier, is kind of an old fart, and like no one likes him, like on either side. So, meh. Yeah, I've just been paying attention to because I'm trying to get out of Canada. I do not want to be under a state that at will can lock me in my own house and exclude me from private businesses, or cancel holidays with family. So
what happens there in New Brunswick if you just ignore the rules? Because in Alberta, a lot of people have been doing that, and if they gotten fines, they just went to court, and most have those just get out without paying the fines.
So this is a little.
How's that in New Brunswick?
As a little bit of a backstory, when COVID lockdowns first hit my area, I'm not a very social person, but I was seeing one friend. This friend is like a 2-minute walk away, so literal, like I'd walk out my door, make 2 right turns, I could see his house, and those right turns were both like 10 steps each. So during this time, I had expressed to my roommates that I thought that the lockdowns were a violation of a couple of our fundamental rights and freedoms. And I woke up a Sunday morning with, I was still in my house coat, just in my underwear, and there was a cop knocking at my door. And I opened, like, I didn't think, everyone thinks that they're doing the right thing. So I understand If
Right.
people could say like you're a bad guy, and I don't get that
Yeah, yeah,
immediately, like I'll reflect
yeah.
on that, sure.
Right.
But this cop essentially threatened with either an arrest or for me to stay home, just for
And this
voice.
this was because you were not at your own place, or what?
I think
Or
it was
because
a.
they saw you outside?
So I think it was a mix of two things. One, I think my old passive-aggressive roommate is a bootlicker, and a malicious person that I do not want like to be around. Um, their brother is a cop, so there's a little strain there. And
So how come that is so different? Like in Alberta, you're going to really have to look for any police officer that wants to enforce this. Why is that so different in New Brunswick? Why do police officers want it? Don't they understand? Don't they understand that like it's nice on TV when they say, "Oh yeah, there's lockdown, strict regulations," when in reality there's nothing going on. But then at least everybody thinks it's like that. As long as it's not enforced, everybody can say, "Oh, we have lockdowns and we're following the rules," but then it's not enforced, so people can just do their own business. That's how it works in Alberta. So we all just keep our mouth shut. We pretend we have lockdowns. Nobody follows them, and the police doesn't enforce it. Why can't they just do that in New Brunswick? Why are these officers? Why don't these officers understand context?
so I think for the majority of New Brunswickers, that is the case. Now,
You think it's just
businesses.
a select group of police officers that just want to put even more suffering onto people?
So there's a couple things interesting about the city that I live in. Our police force is older than Canada. Yeah, one of the first police forces in all of Canada, and the city that I live in is one of the first places that people settled in, like the English. The majority of New Brunswick, or like modern New Brunswick history, I would say, is very like fundamentalist Christian. So I think some of it is a little bit of the pendulum swinging from that extreme, conservative, I would say traditionalist, to very liberal, and the Maritimes in general. So New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, PEI. I don't really want to include Newfoundland in this, but they are the Maritimes. Is very. We get a lot of wealth transfer. There's a lot of disability. There's a lot of welfare. And so I think because the Liberal Party promotes, first off, the transfer of a lot of those funds, but also these pro-health, public health service messages. I think a lot of the general public, which I feel like Michael Malice is like talking in my ear right now. Most people are just NPCs. They're just going to take whatever they don't. It's hard to think. They're just going to take whatever they're being told and be like, that makes sense. Like that emotionally is responding with me. So, yeah. So and because the Liberals give the money, or at least more money, follow their narrative.
So what happened with the interaction between you and the police officer?
I was very irritated.
Is it? Well, yeah. I've never in my life. I don't know how I would. I do know how I would respond to it. Like if a police officer would show up and say, "You have to stay in your house." How can I just cannot accept that. That's just so like that's such a betrayal of like everything that Canada stands for. Like, holy shit.
So I opened the door and he's like, "Are you so and so?" And I was like, "Yeah." In slippers and a house coat. And he's like, "All right, you might want to step outside." And me being confused and again feeling like I hadn't done anything wrong, I'm like, "Sure, why not?" Mistake number one.
Right. Yeah.
So I closed the door and I was living in kind of a wealthier little lane in the city. And I know that every single one of my neighbors could see me dealing with the cops there. And it was just like...
Was this in winter or summer?
This was, I think in spring, just going into the summer.
Okay.
And he, as soon as I, came outside, he's like, "So I heard you think the lockdowns are against the Charter of Rights and Freedoms." And I was like, "Yes, I do." Already getting anxious about the whole thing. And he went on to explain that the Emergency Act justifies that and essentially nullifies portions of the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. And okay, so it's a worthless document then. That's fine, but isn't the rule of law that it applies equally to all men? And that, like, I just can't have, like, cops do not want to debate, right?
Yeah.
So I have this. I don't know if it's because I'm autistic. I don't know if it's just like I don't know what it is, but I need to have that conversation, and I realize that if I did, I've seen what happened to Eric Garner, right? I'm gonna get shot.
Don't
Yeah.
have it with a cop. Don't ever have it with a cop. With the cop, you just say yes, amen. Do whatever you have to do to make him leave, and then just do your own thing. Right? It's never worth it. It's just not worth it.
So we had a little bit of this back and forth, and he was like, "Well, do I have to put you under arrest?" And I was like, "Nope." Like, that's it. Like, no, you don't. And he gave me this slip that was essentially a formal warning, and I was just like, "Okay, can I go? Am I free to leave?" "Yep." "All right, have a good day." Closed the door. I packed my shit. I was out of there by the end of the week.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, really, really annoying. Really horrible to have that happen to you in Canada. Like, seriously. Like, I mean, if this is possible, anything is possible, right? Right? It just means. But we're under the impression that on average speaking, the military and the people that work in the police force, they serve the abstract of Canada, which is like the value system that we live under.
Right.
But that gets rug pulled under us suddenly. Just one tiny virus, and everything we thought we had, as long as it wasn't being challenged. And as soon as it was being challenged, and of course politicians will say, well, we have majority support in the population, but like, creating consensus is so easy, right? If you tell the media, tell them this, if you make everybody scared about whatever it is, there's your fake consensus, right?
Yeah. And in Canada, we still do the first past the post voting. And Trudeau campaigned on electoral reform, but that never happened, right? So at 32% of the population of Canada's votes, Trudeau's majority government. That's great consensus. 32%, guys. I love it.
Well, to be honest, like, if I would be on the streets homeless if it wasn't for Trudeau, because I was completely out of money, and then I lost all my busking and stuff, and then I had my car break down. So the CRAB was a lifesaver for me. And if there had been a really conservative federal government at that time, I don't know if that would have happened. Now it's a horrible solution, right? Because it's just money printing, and everybody pays the bill for it later, right?
Yeah.
But I was kind of happy it happened that way. I knew a lot of people, and it really helped them out that they were not in a situation where they had no wages, right?
Yeah. So
and they did that quickly and effectively, and that helped people a lot, right?
Yeah, I 100% agree. I'm curious, and this is just whataboutism, so it's not really important to think about it, but it's like, would we need the CERB if not for the ridiculous lockdowns? Now, again, as I said earlier, I don't trust the opposition
of course.
to not do the lockdowns.
But in the beginning, look, you got to understand, we cannot be upset about the first response to COVID, right? People were
terrified.
Dying, you could, well, not terrified, but if we had these precedents. You'd look at Italy, you see a lot of old people were dying at the same time. They'd crashed their healthcare for a little bit. Their mortality rate briefly went up to like 7%, really, really high. So that freaked all these governments out a little bit, right? And for very good reason. So I don't blame them for doing something, right?
Right.
But then very, very quickly, what happened was that everybody decided, well, this is a nice crisis, and I'm going to politically take benefit of this crisis. That's what happened.
Yeah.
In the beginning, like Trudeau, we did very well, and like Alberta was very well prepared for this. We had all the masks and all the ventilators, and everything was stocked. Nothing to do with Kenny, but just people before him got everything ready. In the United States, they were really prepared under Obama. They had like everything in place, and everything got just completely broken down before the pandemic even. But then afterwards, in the beginning it was done by science, and it was just like the idea was very simple. Let's not all get sick at the same time. Let's just spread it out over time. but then they completely did a 180 from that. I think like last summer they should have just opened up everything in Canada. Just let it open, let it play out. As soon as we would have hit, as soon as you get like 80% of everybody over 65 vaccinated, that's it.
Yeah.
That should have been it. That should have been it. And then you just switch it around to, because realistically speaking, like even in the beginning, they could have said, okay, everybody over 65, you have to stay inside, and the rest can do whatever they want to. That would have worked out way better. But you piss off your constituents a lot if you do that.
Yeah, and also I think that would be, at least under Canadian law, age discrimination, which would, if it went to federal court.
Yeah.
But
Alberta has never really had any enforced lockdowns, right? Like even this is such an essential thing. Like even if this was the most contagious, deadly thing that would kill you as soon as you step outside the door. I mean, even then, I don't think government should be like, oh, you have to stay inside. I mean, people, if it was that deadly, people would figure that out really quickly and they would stay inside because they would be terrified or would just flee into the country and never come back. So yeah, no, but I wasn't definitely not talking about lockdowns. I was just talking about very sensible things like, the mask wearing does slow the spread a little bit down.
Yeah.
Incentivize people to get the vaccines. Like you can just give. If they would have just been like, we give you an amazing tax benefit you can't say no to if you get the vaccine. And then once you get to 70, 80%, that's it. You're never going to get the remaining 20%, whatever you do.
Yeah. I think we're at 90% vaccinated for 2 shots nationwide, but only about 60% for the 2 shots plus boosters. But that seems pretty good. I know that's higher than a lot of like G20 nations.
It's high enough now, and like I don't know, 30% have had Omicron in their system, so they have a vaccine, 1 or 2, and some boosters, plus then the extra resistance from already having to have the virus in your body. So we should be good as long as no new variant comes out that is like 10 times more deadly. So hopefully this is now slowly going to become the end of it. Alberta is stopping the passports and everything. Like,
yeah, Alberta, Saskatchewan, PEI, and New Brunswick have all laid out plans to either drop them or here's the timeline on when we're going to drop them.
Yeah, I had it happen once. I hadn't been vaccinated at that point. I went into a cafe and I had to show my QR code, which I didn't have, and all that kind of stuff. I didn't make a scene or anything. I mean, like a private business, if they want to play by the rules, they want to play by the rules. I knew other businesses that weren't following that, so just go inside, do whatever. But yeah, I got vaccinated, not because I was worried about the virus or anything, just because then hopefully they'll leave me alone and I can travel again and all that kind of stuff. And so it spreads. It doesn't spread as much with me anymore. That's why I got the 2 shots. But I also told myself, I was like, look. So I take my 2 shots. I get my QR code. Now I have access to everything again. If they change this, if they say no, you got to go for a 3rd shot, I would not have done that.
Well, Canada's got enough shots. We can do 11 shots per person.
11 shots. Oh yeah, no. I mean, like there would always be it would be like a different vaccine, right?
Yeah.
Or like an updated version or whatever. And also like we might end up under a law where it's like it might become mandatory to take a vaccine for this every year. And I don't know how I feel about that. On one hand, I really don't care about the vaccine. I'm not afraid of them at this point. I don't think absolutely anything wrong with them. They are amazing. They help great with fighting this stupid pandemic. But on the other hand, like just making stuff mandatory so that the government can say, okay, well, this company now has the right to put stuff in your body every year. That's just so freaking scary, man. Because you just know when it becomes normalized, eventually that's gonna go horribly wrong at some point, right? You just know that.
Yeah. So I'm patient and I work from home, and I mean I'm very grateful I have that luxury. I get everything delivered. Like I have no reason to leave my house at all at this point, because like I don't know. I respect private business through and through. I feel like they have undue pressure Like they are being made these sheriffs from the government, which I think is kind of odd.
Yeah.
But I like
Yeah.
if I ever went anywhere, I'd bring a mask with me. If someone asked me to put it on, that's no problem.
Yeah.
But I'm very glad that I don't have to, and I'm waiting for the chance to go somewhere.
Did you leave? You left Canada or not yet?
I left the city. I went to
Left the
live
city.
in the woods essentially. I did that for 4 months. Found some remote work and just
Nice.
not great
Come
pay.
to move to Alberta.
I'm leaving
Or any of-
Canada
any
as
other
soon as I
province.
can, bruh.
But what nation are you gonna find a refuge from all this bullshit?
Well, so here's the thing. I don't know if, because I have this very sneaking suspicion, like, it's not just Canada, like Finland, New Zealand, Australia, France are all having these convoy protests now. So, okay, so
In Scandinavia, they didn't do much. There were hardly any lockdowns or anything. They just like, let's get vaccinated and we'll see what happened. And nothing really bad happened there. Their healthcare managed just fine. They didn't do most of the stuff Sweden shows that most of the stuff we did, if we hadn't done that, it would have played out exactly the same.
yeah, so
Or
I think
more or less exactly the same. Such a small difference. The cost of doing it was way higher than any benefits whatsoever.
Well, hang on a second. So I'm not an expert on this, but I just sort of want to throw something in here, which is that I know a guy who's Swedish, and I asked him what he thought about all this, because Sweden has been a heavily discussed, case of, or a heavily discussed, different approach and all that. And the point he said was he kind of laughed about, because he said, look, the culture in Sweden is already very, very sort of anti-sociable, like social, the population is low and people will already naturally, sit at opposite ends of a bus, like for instance, even before any of this started. So from his point of view, he said, okay, look, maybe the outcomes were different in Sweden, and obviously we're never going to know 100% if those same things had been done somewhere else, if it would have been the same or not. But he said that there, in his view, there was a huge pre-existing cultural reasons that wouldn't necessarily apply in other places using the same kind of approaches.
Yeah, that's very fair. Yeah.
So 2 years into it, I think my biggest question, that's not just a whataboutism, is why haven't we, regardless of political party, gone, wow, our healthcare infrastructure is garbage. This needs more money. We need more nurses. We need more doctors.
I want the answer from a Canadian perspective, because I can tell you that
I want
the last 20 or 30 years, a whole bunch of rich people with some political influence have looked at the United States, have looked at the enormous amounts of money that the insurance companies and everything there, because healthcare is a total scam in the United States. They've looked at that and they have done whatever they could to start privatizing healthcare in Canada to go to the American system, because then they could make so much more money. So that's the whole reason why they have been like breaking it down. So medicine gets better and better, and so they've just been like, if you just look at, like, for instance, if you look at hospital beds per 1,000 people, this has gone down in like most modern nations, but that's just because we don't need that many hospital beds anymore. But if you just look at like already the difference between Belgium and Canada is like, in Belgium they have 5.5 hospital beds per 1,000 people. In Canada, it's only 2.5. And the difference there is just really these guys in politics that in the last 20, 30 years have done whatever they could to start just moving away from what Canada has now and just go to like private healthcare. So especially in Alberta, Kenny really would like to go to private healthcare. So they have done whatever they could to just like piss off doctors, piss off nurses, and just start preparing. COVID was a blessing to them, because this gave them a good excuse to damage healthcare even further than it was already damaged. But yeah, there's absolutely no, like, if we could have just left the entire economy how it was, used all that CRAB money to just like increase ICU capacity and just rapidly started training up nurses. You can train a nurse up for COVID work in like a year and a half if you really have to.
Yeah, like a
Or
nursing
year
boot
if you
camp.
really have to.
Let's go. It's for the
Exactly.
nation.
They've done it in some other. They could have put all that money in there. You know what the end result would have been after then the pandemic would be open. We would have some extra ICU capacity, which we needed anyways. And we'd have some extra nurses, which we needed anyways. So
we need
that would have
so
kind of
many
been
doctors.
a long-term investment. So like if they, at the beginning of the pandemic, they would have said, okay, we're going to pay all nurses double pay from before. We're going to rapidly start a highly incentivized nursing training program. You can get a nursing degree now completely free. The government will pay for it. We'll give you a nice tax break. Just try to get your degree in a year. This is your chance. You just go to school for a year. You have a degree for the rest of your life, and we pay for it. They could have done this from the federal, from a provincial. They could have just done it, but there was no political goodwill for that because they want to go with the exact opposite. A lot of, not everybody, but a lot of mainly conservative, fake conservative people, especially in Alberta, they just want to go to private healthcare instead, which is horrible, right? Healthcare and like the fire guys and the police guys, these are just like, these are services, right? These are not supposed to be profitable, right? These are services that we as a society have decided we pay into that. So everybody has a good service, and just making healthcare private is evil. It's just plain evil.
Do you think so? I have no problems with like socialized healthcare. I think it's been a blessing in my life. I had a knee tumor at one point, so I had to go through that. But I wouldn't mind. I don't want a complete transition. I would like to see. Now I understand where this could drain, like the financial incentives get a little muddy, but I wouldn't mind having the option. You have your public health care.
You really can't have either. You have single payer healthcare or you don't, and there's really no in between there. Like you can't really have public and private healthcare at the same time. Then both get more expensive.
Oh yeah. Well, it's gonna get more expensive, like regardless.
But why would you even want private healthcare?
Because
like
it took me 2 years to get a bone tumor removed.
Right. Okay. Right. Yeah. But then couldn't the solution just be to have better healthcare, not necessarily to privatize it?
So I think part of the, like, where it's just like most things in the Western world, we've dug ourselves down this hole way too far. So I look back to medical fraternities and the medical societies where doctors would have contracts, and like localized geographic areas would bid for contracts, and if doctors performed poorly, well, they would get fired, and if doctors performed well, there was a better demand or higher demand for those. So I think like, and there, while the quality of medicine wasn't as high, I think that had more to do with technology than I don't know, like the quality or qualifications of the individual. So this is again just whataboutism. I don't think it's really important to pay too much attention to it, but I really genuinely wonder if we still had some semblance of those medical fraternities, would we have a better quality and just a more voluntary version of healthcare than we currently do?
I've seen just the Nordic model at work in Europe and in Belgium. Like Canadians think they have really good healthcare, but it's just compared to the United States, compared to Belgium, it's really, really shitty here. Like my asthma medication in Belgium, those inhalers would cost me maybe 5 or 10 euros there, and everything there was done wonderfully. Like, right. So you pay an amount of money and then you get some back, and what you get back just depends on how high your income is. So that just means that like, so not only do, so proportionally, taxpayers kind of pay the same, but then when it comes to getting your benefits back, like the lower your income is, the more money you get back that you have paid into this. And I think that's an absolute great system, because it's it just equalizes everything, right? You want to have a society where that really smart person that is born into a poor family has the exact same chances at making it as the rich kid, right? The United States does not have that at all. Canada has that a little bit, but Europe is just such a blessing there, right? Anybody that has it in them can study up and do all these kinds of stuff. I think it's a great system, and I just wish that in Canada would just go full out on the Nordic model. If they would just follow that, it fix a lot that's wrong with healthcare right now, and then you wouldn't have to wait 2 years for your surgery.
I think a lot of that attitude is just cultural, like weird superiority complex because we're neighbors with America. I think that fundamentally just comes down to looking. We're not those guys.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Anyway, guys, I have to start signing up. We've been going for a while.
Yeah.
We have to get some food.
Yeah, this definitely all just changed track a little bit, and that's completely fine. It's been great having you and Daisy on the show, and definitely I'll get you back as well on sometime so we can chat about BTH and chat about the world as well too. I think it'll be interesting also to see the viewer reactions. Like we might try and do some stuff that's more like live stream style, like this, where things have less of a kind of schedule or whatever. But I don't know, just before we sign off then, we've already been going for quite a while. I don't know if you just want to see if Daisy has any final points, or do you want to give any kind of message to the BCH community? Hey Daisy, do you have any last message for the BCH community?
Hey, what's your TikTok?
Yeah, what's your TikTok? Shout out your TikTok link. We get a few more followers.
It's Daisy Fabria.
At Daisy Fabria. We'll link it in the description of the episode and stuff so that everybody can follow you there and get some more BCH and other content, I'm sure too.
Awesome.
Yes.
Well, thanks for having us in the stream, and I really like you guys streams. It's just nice to just talk with people that have the same core values, right? That's basically just like BCH is there, and we just build everything around that. But BCH in the greater scheme of things isn't even the most important thing. It's just a tool that helps us create this world that we think is just better and more in line with the values we all have. So I wish you guys a nice rest of your day, and we'll see you some other time.
That's it. Thanks for joining, and we'll chat soon.
Thanks, guys.
Okay, bye-bye.
All right, cool. So Jett, I don't know, do you want to do meme of the week with me, and then we'll just finish it up, get a last laugh in there? Or
yeah, here, let me just
thinking.
Let me just maneuver this screen around real quick because we only see half your face. And sorry that got so derailed. I feel like that was partially me.
No, that's fine, man. I was more than happy to do it, and I will be we'll put a little note on the start of this episode to the viewers, just kind of explaining how things developed and get some feedback, right? So if you've listened all the way through this episode, definitely feel free to get in contact with me on the Telegram group for the Bitcoin Cash podcast, or send me an email, jeremy@bitcoincashpodcast.com, because things just kind of naturally took a bit of a different turn, and I'm always open to experimentation, right? So maybe people think this was great and we can do more stuff like that. Maybe people would just rather that we did the usual podcast, so we just hit the points and then get through everything in a timely amount of money. Maybe we have a bit of both, but I could sort of see there's definitely some valuable conversation happening there. So we'll reflect on that and think about that for some future streams. But before we sign off, then we've just got one one last little meme of the week. I just really wanted to get this in here.
Okay, I'm just fixing this last thing. Oh,
So
this did really like. Okay, that's top's good, and bottom. I don't know. No, that's too little. Thank you for your patience, viewers. It's great.
While you're working on that, I'll give it the introduction. So it's the meme of the week. It comes from Christine Lagarde, who is the
oh right, I have that open in
IMF. I don't know what is she technically. Let me just. What's her actual position? She's sort of like the head of the IMF. She's the current president of the European Central Bank, right? Since 2019. And she obviously gives updates about currency and what the IMF are doing to sort of centrally control the world's monetary system. So the exact opposite of the grassroots cryptocurrency movement. And one of their things is sort of similar to the Federal Reserve in America, that they're supposed to sort of maintain price stability and not let things get out of whack. Of course, it's a complete farce, because the more they intervene to try and stabilize things, the more they just create cracks under the surface that the market doesn't work out naturally itself. So obviously we started the show talking a bit about inflation and the US national debt getting to all-time highs. And so Christine Lagarde had a few words to say about that. So I thought this could be meme of the week. So let's hear what she has to say.
An inflation profile, which looks like a hump. So it has clearly increased over the last 3 quarters. And we know how painful it is. We know that, life is more expensive as a result, particularly for those people who have low income and who are more exposed to prices rising, particularly when, you fill up the tank. But we see it as a hump, and a hump eventually declines. And this is what we project for 22, that inflation will decline over the course of 22.
So yeah, that just made me absolutely laugh the first time I saw it, that Christine Lagarde, she thinks it's a hump. What evidence is there for that? What science is there? What stats? There's nothing. It's literally just a narrative of where we hope, more like we hope that you'll believe us when we tell you this story, that it's a hump. And she has a little hand movement where she tries to like convince you that it's like a magician, here's the hump and here's where it's going to go. Of course, inflation has been going up despite the fact that they said it wouldn't, or that it's all stable, because there's so much money being printed. It's literally that simple. And then now we've got this new narrative of the hump, and of course that's not going to come to fruition either. There's going to be more inflation, of course there is. But the story you're being told by Christine Lagarde, the genius, head of the ECB or whatever, with all her controls and powers, it's just a story. It's a complete narrative. It's a fiction that we're being told, and just I don't know, it just made me laugh so much. I don't know who believes in this stuff or who listens to it. I'm sure there's millions of people who do, but the fact of the matter is, if you just think it through rationally yourself for 5 seconds and think about the history of these sort of bankers' predictions of what's going to happen, it's just self-serving rhetoric. It's nothing to do with the accurate status of what is happening in the world, really. So yeah, I don't know. So
the ECB has this lady. Is it the IMF that has that really big guy?
Yeah.
You know who I'm talking about.
I know who you're
right?
talking about. Yeah. I don't know what his name is. So.
The finance minister of Germany at the start of COVID killed themselves, and I'm kind of interested if they ran their own models and were like, I'm not doing this again. The last time Germany had a massive problem with their money system, I'm out.
Well, we might be heading back towards a Weimar Germany type of situation. So everybody be aware, you're hearing the real talk on this podcast. It's not going to be a hump. There's going to be a lot more inflation. US debt is getting to unsustainable level. It always has been. The system is designed so that we will forever be in debt, and that's the point of Bitcoin Cash. So join the cryptocurrency economy, start trading in that, because that's an asset-based system which just fundamentally gives the world a bit of a free out of just the enormous mess that we are currently in.
Has
Yeah,
like
go on.
the price of your groceries gone up over the past year?
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, mine personally, mine has. I know for sure the food and stuff that I buy. I mean, I don't. I have pretty limited spending pattern, really. I buy a bit of food and I pay for my housing, which is on a contract, so that hasn't changed. And I've been surprised there hasn't been more word from my landlord kind of about that. I would have expected that, but it seems like that's insulated a bit at the moment. But price of food is going up, definitely. And there's not much else that I regularly kind of buy, to be honest. My utilities and all that are included. So it's just, it's been sort of fine-ish but I can see it happening everywhere when I just look around at the price labels on stuff, and this kind of Christine Lagarde trying to gaslight people about the price of literally gas, right? That's where people feel it, like the pinch at the pump or whatever all those like slogans are. Like, people notice where that's something that they're really tuned into the price of, and so when that starts going up, the common people or the people at large sort of really feel it, even if these bankers are trying to tell them some other story. Like, they can just see that it's a lie in their everyday experience, and they feel the direct pain of that. And so yeah, it just ties into everything we've talked about, with people searching out alternative sources of information, people adopting cryptocurrency, people realizing the system needs to change, and people realizing that they're not being served. They're actually controlled. It's the opposite. They're doing the serving, even though they're probably at the bottom of the pile.
I'm curious if, like, you know, the average, like, the really average blue collar worker that doesn't even turn on the news, that just, you know, watches The Simpsons or something, if they remember that crude oil was $, like a year and a half ago, and they're like, what in the fuck happened? like even if you don't pay any attention to anything, the prices of gas were so low, and how strained is the industrial, like, I don't understand how it works, and I'm really ignorant about this, sure, but how is it that in a year and a half, like, we go from $- to prices are rising, you know, 20, 30, 40% at the pump?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not an expert on oil either, so I couldn't give you, the accurate summary. But I do know for sure that, like, with what just goes to show how financialized everything is. Really, and that's the simple answer. I mean, oil obviously has a lot of geopolitical stuff. What Saudi Arabia is up to, what Russia is up to. How natural gas is coming along in different parts of the world. How renewable energy is performing. Like this. We need to have a whole expert guest for a whole separate podcast to get through oil, but it really just goes to show, right, that the average person suffers as a result of these kind of whims of the manipulated levers of power by the people who do have access and control over that kind of stuff, because it's clearly not just the market figuring out a sort of supply and demand equilibrium. There's no question about that. All right. Well, I think that will do it for this week then. We'll just hit the last slide, and as always, yeah, let me know as the viewers if you've enjoyed a bit of this tangential stuff, and maybe we'll do more of it, or if you just want to hear the regular Bitcoin Cash podcast, or maybe there'll be hybrids, or maybe we can do a separate thing for that. Obviously, we've been talking about the BCH builders scene. Maybe we can ditch that and create a more live stream based discussion platform. I don't know, lots of different ideas, but I'll be paying close attention to the viewer feedback as to what you all thought and if you enjoyed it. So yeah, that will do it for the show. Thank you to all the donators. Huge shout out. It makes a huge difference. And yeah, really gives us the time and resources to work on this kind of stuff. The start guide, FAQ, links and everything are at bitcoincashpodcast.com. You can check that out. At the bottom of the page, there's links to the Telegram group and to all the other platforms. You can follow the podcast. And if you don't know anything about cryptocurrency, that's what I recommend. Take an hour, read the start guide, and you'll have a much firmer grasp of what's kind of all going on. And yeah, shout outs for the show. Do you want to give any shout out this week, Jett?
I guess to my fellow Leafs who are in Ottawa right now, in your hot tub or in your bouncy castle, or just having a good time in that downtown core. Keep the spirits high, keep things nonviolent. It's been I'm so amazed that things have gotten this far and there's still no direct confirmed violence. And I guess to our guest, I think it's important that we get, we've had so many Western guests on, and I think that it's important that we get some of the people that are more affected by, the volatility of cryptocurrency and actually using it, rather than the West is so much about speculation and hype. So that's it from me.
Yeah, I just want to echo that. It was kind of really brave by Daisy. She was actually quite anxious and stuff about coming on the podcast. She did want to do it, but she that was a big effort for her. So thank you to her for coming on the show. She's really engaged with the Bitcoin Cash community. For anybody who's on TikTok or whatever, go and check out her stuff. It's certainly very different to this podcast, so you might find something new there that you like. And thanks to Matthias as well, Kain niaK, who's also does a lot of great work in the BCH scene, and it just so happened that he was ended up involved in this session as well too. But we will definitely try and find another time to get him on for some more thoughts on the crypto scene as well too. So that will do it for this week. Thank you to all the viewers, and until next time.
The government shows
while the rich banks rob ya,
property blind man.
Future dollars can buy nothing for ya.
You've heard of inflation, right?
Banks fucked you royal.
Had fun at the bank recently?
So why you loyal?
Real talk. Time to crypto switch. That's BCH, bitch.
BCH, bitch.
Now let's keep the bankers rich.
Rich.
It's on you.